Without a gavel, I'd like to call to order the August 8th regular meeting of the Peters Township Planning Commission. Ed, roll call.
Mr. Mills.
Here.
Mr. Cartafilis.
Here.
Mr. Magrino.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Salepis.
Here.
Mrs. Corbeil and Mr. Wiley will not be here tonight.
And before we move on to our other regular items, including approval of the minutes, I believe we have some speakers here this evening I'd like to address the commission.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, it's great to be back here. Hard to believe it's almost 4 years since I sat with you guys. As you guys know, typically we used to have a banquet every year to honor our employees and our board members for their participation and for their service to the township. As it turned out over the years, it seemed that there was the same small group that was attending, so this year, in order to save money, we decided not to have that banquet. So instead, each member of council was assigned a particular board which meeting to attend and present you with a small token of our appreciation. Of course, I chose the Planning Commission because what other board would I ever want to go to than to come back and see you guys? So, on behalf of the township, thank you so much, gentlemen, for your service. As we all know, the Planning Commission does great work and performs an invaluable service to the township. So it's my pleasure on behalf of council to present each of you with a small token of our esteem.
Mr. Kosa, thank you so much.
Sir. I'll do the left hand. I broke my wrist. Thank you.
Again, gentlemen, thank you, and carry on.
Thank you very much. Do we have another speaker?
No, I don't know how I can top that, but I'll try. So, no, I would just echo what Mr. Koser said. The Planning Commission does great work over the past several years. Since I've been here 3 years, I've seen the adoption of residential zoning overlays and a rewrite of our zoning ordinance and then subsequent amendments to it. The Planning Department has worked tirelessly with the Planning Commission on. You've shown great dedication to your craft, and it's much appreciated by the administrative staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now that we all feel very good about ourselves, I'm sure we can move on to approval of the minutes of July 11, 2019.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any reports or correspondence, Ed? Site plans or subdivisions filed for review?
We have two. We have the Medved Sites property line shift on Just About Road, simple re-subdivision. And we have a pretty big new development being proposed, Venetia Hills preliminary plan. It's on the Mark Miller property on Venetia Road. It's residential development, and this is the preliminary plan. And I want to condition this filing that we receive stormwater management and planning modules within the next couple days. If not, then we'll file it in September.
Understood. That moves us on to approval of agenda. Are there any items that need to be addressed on the agenda? Any revisions to it?
No.
Do we need a formal vote on the approval of the agenda?
No.
I didn't think so.
We don't have to.
Just noted in the approval. Any comments from the audience for items that are not on the agenda? Sounds good. Having no old business, we'll move on to new business. That is a Planning Commission recommendation for the Westbury Consolidation Plan, Bartnett Street.
So as we're all extremely familiar with by now, this is part of the Westbury development. At last month's Planning Commission meeting, you were shown a subdivision plan for a portion of property up on this section here as part of, I don't know, my laser pointer, somebody used my computer tonight. On the north end of this property. Tonight we're looking at the entire consolidation of all the parcels in preparation for the plan of recording as part of the Westbury development plan. They are taking a number of lots that are all owned by this Environmentally Sound Enterprises LLC and consolidating them into 3 total lots. The first lot will be located west of Barnett Street. The second lot will be located east of Barnett Street between Barnett and Churchill. That will ultimately serve as the main means of access for the development. And Lot 3 will be the small lot at the southern end that will be servicing as part of their stormwater management, as a pipe will be running through that from a pond as part of the future development. They're simply consolidating, creating 3 lots that are all conforming with the zoning district. There's no minimum lot size, but obviously these are pretty large lots, so that would never be an issue. Staff is recommending approval of the Westbury Consolidation Plan, subject to the 12 conditions listed in my July 31, 2019 report. Many of those have been addressed already, but we're going to keep all 12 conditions at this time. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Nobody here from the applicant is present, but this is a pretty simple application, so we did not feel that they needed to be here.
Any commissioner comments on the plan? Hearing none, may I have a recommendation?
I'll make a motion to recommend the Westbury Consolidation Plan.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That brings us to final planning commission recommendation, planning commission recommendation, final plan, Metzimer subdivision, Center Church Road.
So what we're looking at here tonight is both a subdivision and a modification, as well as a variance for a property located along Center Church Road. In the current configuration at 282 Center Church Road, we have 2 houses, these 2 houses here, located on the same lot. The existing lot runs in this configuration. Back here, it's all one lot. This lot and this house are already separated on their own, but as part of this subdivision plan, what we're doing is helping them establish a house on each separate lot, and trying to get each lot into conformance with our zoning ordinance as close as we can. As part of this resident here off Clubview is also acquiring a portion of the rear 282 lot, just simply acquiring more land from this lot here. Both lots would still be maintaining minimum size requirements. The modification that is coming before you tonight that will ultimately go to council as well, what we're creating here is a landlocked lot that does not have direct access to any street. Staff at this time is comfortable recommending a modification for this lot simply because there's an existing driveway that runs and services this house already. What we're doing as part of this subdivision plan is establishing an easement that will protect and maintain that driveway. So we're effectively maintaining a means of access to this lot even though it is landlocked, and we have no concerns about that going away anytime in the future. Just for your information, we'll also be going to the zoning hearing board on the 20th with this subdivision plan. This lot here will be about 0.4 acres in size, so they are going to need a 1/10 of an acre variance on the minimum lot size requirement, but we're going to be making a recommendation of approval to the zoning hearing board as well because we're solving a bigger problem by getting each house on its own lot, and having a variance for a 1/10 of an acre is not that significant in this situation. So what we're recommending as staff tonight to the Planning Commission is approval of this subdivision plan and the modification for the access for Lot 3, and subject to the 5 conditions listed in our report. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions the Planning Commission may have.
We're taking the situation, these homes were built in
1930, 1950s, yeah.
we don't know how they got 2 homes on one property. We're trying to solve a problem by putting each house on its own separate lot and creating an easement for the lot that doesn't have.
Did we approach them or did they approach us?
They approached us.
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
By all means.
I'll make a motion for the Planning Commission to recommend the Metzmeyer subdivision final plan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brings us to planning commission recommendation, final plan, Subaru of South Hills Consolidation Plan, 3260 Washington Road.
This is the first of 2 items dealing with the Subaru of South Hills. We have Kevin Clay here tonight, the manager of Subaru, and we have Lenny White, who's the civil engineer for Subaru. The first item on the agenda is the consolidation. Back in spring of this year, Subaru Lithia purchased the old Bowser Cadillac property, and that, they own two properties. They own the property where the dealership was built, and they own the vacant property to the north. Subaru of South Hills, Lithia Motors bought both properties. The first plan on this agenda tonight, go ahead.
Did Cadillac own both properties or no?
They
So
did.
Oh, so they bought both.
They
Okay,
bought both.
gotcha. Okay.
Cadillac owned them, and Subaru bought both. The consolidation plan simply combines both properties into one, creating an 8.93 acre property. And in addition to the consolidating of the two lots into one, it establishes new easements and vacates old easements for sanitary, Peters Township Sanitary Authority sewers, and also Peters Township storm sewers. They're going to be relocating two lines, both one sanitary sewer line and one storm sewer line that requires an easement to be vacated and a new easement to be established. This consolidation plan shows those easements being vacated and creates the new easements for where the new storm and sanitary sewer line will ultimately be. Staff's recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to council that we approve the consolidation plan subject to Peters Township Sanitary Authority approval. And there's a note on there, note 4, that refers to a contract between the owners and the township, and that just needs to be removed. So we're recommending the Planning Commission approve the plan with those two conditions.
This is just the consolidation at this point.
Correct.
Why are we putting stormwater management easements on the plan? Maybe I missed that. Could you please state your name and?
Lenny White, from KU Resources. It's similar to what we did with the smaller parking lot with when it was still Cadillac. There's public storm sewers and sanitary sewers that run from the residential lot to the top that tie down on 19. Those lines are actually, if you can see the easement that we're extinguishing, the storm line is kind of on the left line of it, and the sanitary is actually out of the easement. And when we originally were doing the parking lot for Cadillac, we were moving them towards the property line to get them out of the way. Now that Lithia has purchased the property, we're moving them the other direction. So we still need the easements since they're public lines. They're not.
Gotcha, I was referring to the line coming around, I would say.
Oh, that, okay, yeah, those easements, we actually, since when I dropped those off, there, I guess there was some confusion between engineer's comments and the plan. It just said that the storm needed easements.
Understood. So this is just the storm that conveys water through the site,
Yes.
not everything on the site?
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah.
That's all my questions I have.
Sorry.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding the consolidation plan only? If not, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the final plan for the consolidation of Subaru as outlined in the August 1 memo and in accordance with the two conditions noted therein.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That brings us to the second portion of this plan. It's actually the Planning Commission approval for the revised site plan Subaru of South Hills, 3260 Washington Road.
Lenny's here, we'll let him go into a little bit of more detail. I'm just gonna hit some highlights. We all know where this property is. It's located at 3260 Washington Road, and it's in a general commercial zoning district. Factory authorized automobile dealerships are a permitted use in the GC zoning district. The proposal and revised plan before you tonight does two things. One, it's going to add 14,933 square feet of new square footage to the dealership building, most of its service area. There is a 705 square foot addition to the showroom. and that occurs on the right side. The service area is on the left side. The access to the site will not change. It comes in off of a signalized driveway to Route 19. That driveway is shared with the funeral home to the south. In my report, I do point out that there is a problem with that signal, and it's because the, yeah, what do we call those things? They're, the sensors are exposed and they're becoming damaged, and so part of this, we want, Lithia's gonna be in there paving, so we want them to try to take care of that. I don't know if that's a problem, but we can discuss that. But access to the site, both to the property to the north where the inventory storage area, they won't create any new access points to 19. Everything to and from Subaru will happen at the signalized driveway. There is a traffic impact fee involved. Subaru is expanding the building, adding 14, almost 15,000 square feet, so we'll calculate that traffic impact fee based on the ITE trip generation manual for a factory author dealership, and whatever the number is, that'll have to be paid before we issue the building permit. Stormwater is being handled by a subsurface facility. Lenny could go into detail and explain where that is, but that's all being managed in underground subsurface tanks. Landscaping, landscaping and lighting are important, and they have a good landscape plan and they have a good lighting plan. I wanted to point out that in the back, there's a 25-foot buffer area required. The closest the new inventory parking area comes to the property line is extreme top left, where it gets to be about 30 feet from the property line. The majority of the new inventory storage area, which will be a paved, landscaped, lit area, is 60-plus feet away from the residential property line in the rear. So there's existing vegetation there that'll remain, plus they're going to be putting in a substantial evergreen buffer in that area. Lighting, when Bowser did the lighting, they used nice lights. They kept all the light on site, and the neighborhood up behind was very happy with that, and they're going to mimic those same lights for this inventory storage area, and their lighting plan shows that all the light is staying there and not out on Route 19 or up in the neighborhood. Building elevations, do we have those? You know, they're going for the prototypical Subaru look. It's the, go ahead.
What did the Cadillac come in for? Didn't they come in for something a couple
Inventory
years ago?
storage.
Expansion?
They, just to create that parking area to the north.
Okay, gotcha. I remember them coming back.
That
in
was all
again.
approved, but
Did they ever pave it?
they never did. They had a problem over in their dealership in Pleasant Hills and never got to the point where they built this.
Okay.
So they never put any of the stormwater stuff in either?
Well, they
The
did.
main Cadillac site did.
Yeah,
But not the.
Yeah, the
but not
inventory
the,
side
not the
didn't have
extra
anything.
lot. So there was nothing physically done over there, so this is, you don't have to abandon anything or anything.
Actually, to answer that, I guess whoever had it prior to Bowser having it, they did, was it Thomas Crown?
Thomas Holmes.
That, there is storm and sanitary that actually isn't connected to anything. So those are gonna come out.
Yeah, at
And that's
one
all
point-
part,
At one point, Thomas Homes, they had a plan approved called Thomas Plaza. It was gonna be a combination office, retail, development, and they put some infrastructure in, but like,
Yeah,
never
it's-
finished it.
yeah.
So, you know, we're looking at the prototypical Subaru look. It's the silver metallic aluminum composite material in the front. They're gonna be building that stone Subaru icon tower in the middle. The addition on the right, the showroom addition will match the facade on the front. The addition of the service area on the left side is a combination of the silver metallic aluminum composite, same color, There's windows, and then at the bottom, they're using some block to prevent, vehicles, if a vehicle would ever hit that, they want block there, so. All rooftop mechanical equipment will be screened.
Is this rendering of the actual building to the final building, or is this like a typical photo of a dealership?
Actually, I think that is the building. That is the building.
So, staff is, looking at this plan, it meets all our general commercial zoning district requirements, parking, setbacks, buffers, floor area, ratios, building heights. Lithia wants to start this project immediately. They're very busy up there, they're very crammed, and they need space. So staff's recommending that the planning commission approve this site plan, subject to those 16 conditions listed in my memo to you. Go ahead.
The Cadillac have service there as well?
Yes.
But this is, are you expanding your whole service and the rest is gonna go showroom?
The service is staying, and then they're doing more service
So
on top of
more
that.
service,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So how many bays do you have right now in the service center?
12.
Could you please come introduce yourself, sir? Thank you.
Kevin Clay, nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming. We have 12 right now with one alignment rack, so we actually have 11 workable bays, and then we're gonna have 12 additional bays going in because Subaru service is needed so much. It's to the point where it's 3 weeks back for customers, and if you think about that, no car ever breaks down when you want it to. So essentially, you want to get your customers in and get that taken care of, and that's why they're going to put the additional service bays into the addition.
When we talked to Cadillac, I remember a lot of discussion regarding service would occur with the doors closed. There was to be some sound attenuation, and I understand, at least in the initial turnover, maybe it's been rectified, but that had not been occurring. Has that been changed and the operation is now in compliance, or is that not occurring?
Kevin can talk about it, but initially when Subaru first moved in, we had a little bit of a problem. It came to our attention. We met with Mr. Clay, and it's been good ever since.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, what happened, I wasn't aware of the ordinance with the noise, and like I said, Mr. Zook and I, we sat down cordially. He explained to me, said, this is what we have in place, this is what you need to do, and we have abided by those.
Great. And we haven't received any calls or complaints regarding that?
Not since they initially moved in.
Good. Could you please explain where the retaining wall is and how that interacts? We had a lot of discussion on the retaining wall last time.
Right,
This
yeah.
development.
So roughly the same area. We're kind of expanding off of the existing retaining walls that are back there now. Same kind of general guideline. They're 6 feet high, and then they're spaced, so they're staggered to be no more than 6. We kind of pushed them back. Actually, the last wall, we have 3 walls.
So it's back left behind the new addition.
Right.
But the last wall is actually a real small wall, and I think it's only 2 feet high.
Now, I don't see any landscaping of those walls. Is that
We have the utilities back there. So
the utilities behind the walls?
the storm and sanitary are on there, so we don't want to get any plants or anything within the
And we're
easements.
okay with that being constructed over our storm and sanitary?
Well, it's not over, it's just adjacent to it. See, storm.
I think you're over both of them.
Yeah, so here, this is the existing wall, and then these are the new walls, and then these are the utilities.
So you are proposing to construct walls over the current utilities?
These utilities are going to come out, and
Oh,
that's why we're relocating them.
They're
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
So there are no walls in our easements.
Understood. So then there's not a planted buffer at that area right there, because you have utilities running parallel to the property line.
Right.
So you have a 25-foot green space that's not planted with additional trees, essentially.
For the most part, yeah.
Only
Because it is a
you can't
public
plan
easement.
over the storm and sanitary sewer line.
What's the clearance between the building and the retaining wall?
We have a 20-foot access drive, so it's over that. Because we have a buffer between the building and the pavement, and then the pavement and the bottom of the first wall. And that was for our emergency
The
vehicle.
buffer yard, so that's existing vegetation now. I'm not familiar with the vegetation level. Is it scrub or is it actually trees that we're looking at?
A little bit of both, actually.
Now, we're just planting, if that's indicative of the landscape plan, it's a single row of kind of varied, look, it's not linear, but it's varied, kind of staggered, if you will, pine trees?
Yes.
How tall are those pine trees?
They have to be 6.
I'm just remembering a lot of the discussion we had in our previous,
Maybe we could add a 17th condition that when those walls are in and those utility, storm and sanitary lines are relocated, we could go back there and look at that area and see if there's any room to get a few additional pine trees.
You're 17 feet deep on these utilities, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like you're 11 to 17 feet deep on these utilities. I'm speaking particularly in the area that's parallel to the property line. I just would very much like to see a more contiguous buffer there. I know that was a great point that was taken from the residents in our previous hearing. And I would think that would, if the township would allow that over their facilities, understanding there's some jeopardy that if this storm line has issues within 10 years, but the roots aren't going to go down 17 feet or 10 feet. I mean, it should be just an issue that if there's an issue in that line, you may have to take out a tree when you replace it. And at 17 feet, you're probably going to line it at that point from a maintenance standpoint.
We can add a condition to that effect, but the sanitary authority concerns me.
They're very
I
strict.
can't see Enoch saying to put a tree on his line.
So if we could word it in a
Whatever.
fashion that allows some flexibility there, then we'll be okay.
Understood. So you have a 6-foot wall, 6-foot wall, and then something less.
Yes.
Because it would be the same thing if we had, even if we planted further down the hill and extend that buffer in front of the walls. I'm just trying to get some type of buffer between property line and your development that's not hardscape or grass, which is essentially what's going to be remaining should we not be able to plant trees over that line and we have otherwise utilized the wall systems. So what's your total grade from bottom of wall to top of wall? Is that 15 feet then? 12, 6, 6, and 3?
Yeah.
I think that should be looked at to provide some type of buffer there, because the requirement for the buffer yard is not just the distance, but it's also a screening component of opacity.
Well, so is, first wall 6 feet, there's 6 feet of distance between, and then the next one is 6, and the next one is whatever.
Yeah, the last one was shorter.
We could plant between the walls.
I'd be fine with that. 6 is a little slim, especially with the depth of block, but I'm sure there could be a design there that really just provides that buffer. You're gonna have an expanded service bay that's directly behind that. I mean, you're drawing a straight line from homes through that to your service bay, and we're not providing literally any screening. We're providing a distance buffer and a vertical buffer, but we're not providing any screening per se. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that a partial requirement that it be a planted buffer?
It is. You can't plant over the.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that's a constraint that is imposed, and we haven't, in my opinion, done enough to design around that. I think the plan's fine, and I appreciate, the sound ordinance being met. I think that's something we need to work on, in particular with the planting plan around that corner, because we are very close. That's where the building is arguably closest to homes.
And especially with the expanded service.
Right at that bay, exactly. That's gonna be, if we have a 3-week backlog in Subaru service, that's gonna be a very predominant operation, at least for the short term. and I'm sure for the long term as well. So can we work that into the recommendations that the enhanced screening, I guess that'd be at the northeast corner of the proposed building expansion, particularly where the retaining walls are? I'm sure there's something we can do from a grading perspective to get our 6-foot trees.
Those residents, if there's one thing they always consistently complained about was buffer. Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem. We can work with KU Resources and we'll come up with a additional buffer plantings.
And I truly think, an ounce of prevention, you're well aware of the calls you received at the opening. So if we try to address this now, it's going to make everyone's
Especially if
lives.
they're putting the trees up already.
Yeah, let's
Add it to the plan,
get them in.
the cost effect, and you're gonna have the less complaints.
Last question, because it's kind of a hot item. Stormwater management, underground detention, we have infiltration here. That's a question. Do we have infiltration?
We do the extended detention. It's kind of an alternate that the BMP manual allows you to do, similar to what we did on the Cadillac side. So there's a
Was
main.
Cadillac approved?
There was a main detention facility in the. Actually, it's probably under the logo on your.
Okay. You might want to check that. The MRC method's new. It's basically for areas that you do not have a detention or infiltration. It's a new method that is causing havoc with stormwater management facility design. So might want to check into that. It's not Peters Township ordinance. That's DP.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so you can no longer simply say that we're doing extended detention without formally advising that you do not have infiltration tests. So if you have infiltration tests, you either have to prove that you're not infiltrating or you have something below it that's prohibiting, such as rock. And if you do have that condition, there is a method for over-detaining and releasing 0.1 acres, 0.1 CFS per impervious acre of development. So it really expands the amount, your footprint of your underground detention or above ground detention. It's more than you would think, which is why I'm bringing it up. So that's not really a.
Depending on where you are in the process with WCCD, if you're saying it's extended detention, that's exactly what they're going to tell you to do. That's what Tom Ulrich is pushing everyone towards if you don't do infiltration. So keep us updated on progress.
One of the permits that they need is an NPDES.
Yeah, we still need that.
Are you going for a new NPDES or a major mod?
Actually, to make it easier, we're gonna get a new one. It'll be a new one.
Okay,
So
interesting. I'm not sure how that old BMP would be there, so, but understood, it's not a,
Well, that's-
it's not a
yeah,
comment
we're
from
in-
this board.
yeah,
It's
we're
just,
still in. We don't have it yet.
Understood.
So
No, that, WDCC will take care of that, so just an FYI.
And that's condition 4.
Very good.
Staff recommendation.
Any other commissioner comments? I see no one else in the audience.
I think, Chairman, it'd be good to finally see this lot paved. I think we promised to pave lot that promise.
Several
Talking
years
about
ago.
this lot for 2 years.
That's longer.
Yeah.
4 years. 4 years, yeah. 2015.
I was gonna say, I think our
And then they had a
initial
2-year
project
window.
number
That's right.
for it
And then
was a
we get
14 number.
another
So
year or two.
Wow.
Last question, just how many parking spots, or I should say, what's the capacity of vehicles that you're intending to park? I see 315.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's gonna be paved all the way back?
The paving will actually stop kind of at the northeast side where the lines end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not gonna park any cars beyond
But you're
that.
not gonna. park
That may be gravel.
I don't think we want that.
No. This inventory, any area where there's going to be vehicles stored needs to be part of the,
Paved.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't, we're not gonna
No,
let that happen.
this is, you got 315 as striped on this plan, and that's what's before us tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to come back and get expansion. We dealt with Bowser forever, and we gave him a lot of leeway and never worked out.
Yeah, and that just runs with a little bit of pain with the site we've had before, so like to keep it to this particular parking field as paved as shown, and then if something should change, by all means, we'll deal with it.
We can, yeah, we can come back.
With that, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the revised site plan of the Subaru South Hills as detailed in the planning staff memo dated August 2nd, 2019, subject to the 16 conditions therein, plus the 17th condition regarding the buffer, vegetation buffer, as Mr. Zook stated earlier.
You know, I'll try to, additional buffer plantings, evergreens be planted in the rear, in the rear of the new service area, in or behind the retaining walls,
Is landscape screening.
landscape screening.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Good luck to you.
You ready to get started? Yeah. Good, because my daughter drove all the way to Washington to get a Subaru oil change today. So. Just to let you know.
That brings us to the planning portion. Any issues brought up by commissioner staff?
I have none.
With that, hearing adjourned.